Joining me now is NAACP President and CEO Derek Johnson. Thank you very much for being with us. I want to just posit that you are a nonpartisan organization. You do not get involved in partisan politics at all. I just think we're approaching this from the standpoint of encouraging voting is good on all sides. And it is a factor that you have Kamala Harris as the first Black and South Asian, most likely nominee on the major party ticket. It was a woman.
Well, for the NAACP, we are nonpartisan, but we're very political. And what we have recognized since the president spoke to our delegates in Las Vegas 2 weeks ago on tomorrow is more and more African Americans are focusing on Project 2025 and the policy implications of that. And as they're evaluating candidate options, they are looking for candidates who would denounce such policy. That 900-page document is a radical shift from for individuals when it comes to employment, going from a 40-hour work week to 160 work month. When it comes to education, having a national book ban, when it comes to all sorts of matters that's important to African Americans. And so it's no coincidence, I don't think, that as we're seeing an increase in enthusiasm in the African American community for this election, it is also tied to the policy considerations that people must decide. It's about the policy as much as it is about the people.
Is it also about some of the statements that the former president has made, referring to Black jobs being taken by immigrants and trying to set people who are coming over from other countries against Black people? There's no such thing as, like, quote, Black job. Let's just posit that.
You know, the best T-shirt I've seen is "The Black Job is President of the United States." It's been an outstanding T-shirt. You know, the former president really doesn't help the case. His dog whistle politics, which is not even a dog whistle. It is very loud. It's in your face. Just recently, he gave a speech somewhere where he talked about, would you rather have the Black female president or the white president? Christians, if you vote this one time, you will never have to vote again. That is a direct attack to our democratic process and to democracy. It is a level of racial outreach that we have not seen since the 1950s South. And so many African Americans are concerned about that approach, concerned about some of the words that come out of his mouth, but more importantly, concerned about the policy considerations that are on the table.
Speaking of the 1950s and 60s South, perhaps, there is the commemoration of the anniversary of the 1965 Civil Rights Act by Lyndon Johnson, which has come under attack, in fact, from several members of the Supreme Court, especially Clarence Thomas, in recent concurring majority opinions. So talk to me about that speech, the important speech at the LBJ Library today.
Here we are, 60 years since the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Next year will be 60 years since the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Right. Two of the most critical pieces of legislation to ensure full participation of African American in society, and so that we can have a true democracy. I've heard former head of LDF talk about that this nation really didn't have a democracy because more than half of its citizens could not participate. When you think about the right of women to vote didn't come into place until the 20s, the 65 Voting Rights Act really ushered in a moment where African Americans could fully engage. So we're still a young democracy. And so that is something for us to celebrate, because now we're the most diverse nation that we've ever been. More people can participate and add their voice to public policy considerations. And so it's a milestone that we should celebrate and really fight against those who will seek to undermine those milestones.
Mr. Johnson, I don't want to let you go without asking you about Sonia Massey, because on Friday, Vice President Harris called the family. She, of course, the Black woman who was fatally shot by police in her Illinois home. Earlier this month, the officer, Sean Grayson, was fired and charged with murder. He pleaded not guilty, and records obtained by NBC News show that he worked for 6 different law enforcement agencies. Since 2020, there were 2 complaints against him. Your reaction to all of this?
It is unfortunate that an unarmed individual in her home who called on her God in that moment will be executed. It is the very reason why we must pass police reform. I've heard from many law enforcement individuals who absolutely denounce this type of action. And that's why we need a national database of police misconduct. So an individual like this cannot just go from agency to agency causing harm on citizens, lawful citizens. It is beyond inhumane what this officer did to this individual. And I hope the call from the sitting vice president gave some solace to the family, but I really, really hope that he is brought to justice and held accountable for his actions.
And we should point out that some of those features, the database, for instance, were in the Senate bill that failed in negotiation. So it never got anywhere in the Hill.
Yeah, this is George Floyd Police. George Floyd Police Reform Act is something that we must adopt as a nation. We're a leading nation, but yet we fall woefully behind other countries to ensure that police protect and serve our communities and not individuals prey on our communities.
Serve all of our communities for all the valiant work that the police do. Thank you very much, Derek Johnson of the NAACP. We appreciate it.